Whisper something I could hear. We'll wait for the weekend.
Hi, I'm Helly. So in this tutorial, we are going to make all of these animals keychains. So this tutorial is totally beginner friendly. So I am going to show you step by step on how to do each one of this. And also I'm going to go through it slowly. So for the head, it is going to be the same step for each animals. Just choose what animals you want to make and let's get started with the head. So first, we are going to make a slip knot. So to do a slip knot, you're going to grab your yarn and then place the yarn on top of your index finger. And as you can see, I am making a loop. Right now, my index finger is facing upwards like this. So face your index finger upwards. You're going to grab onto these two yarn, which is this is the end of your yarn and then this is going to be a working yarn. So make sure that these two yarns will not move around. Then you're going to turn your index finger and face it downwards. So twist your index finger like this. And as you can see at the bottom of my index finger, I have this X shape. Now you're just going to grab onto the X shape and release the loop from your finger. Then you're going to take your working yarn, which is the yarn on your right, and then you're going to place the yarn on top of the loop, and then from the back you're just going to grab onto this yarn. So as you can see, this is going to be your slip knot. Now take your crochet hook and insert your hook into the loop. Make sure that the end is at the back and then the working yarn is at the front. Now just pull these two yarn to tighten it up. Make sure that the yarn is tight on your hook. Just don't pull it until it's too tight and can't move around. So to hold the working yarn, I am going to take my 3 fingers right here and I'm going to grab onto the yarn like this. So you're going to make sort of a gun shape with your hand and then you're going to place your yarn on top of your index finger, sort of wrapping your index finger with your yarn like this. And then with your middle finger and thumb, you're going to hold onto the end. So this is how I am holding my yarn. Now we are going to chain 5. So to chain, you're going to yarn over with your hook. So yarn over and then with your hook, with this part of your hook, you're going to pull through the loop like this. So this is going to be your first chain. As you can see, we have this V shape. So this V shape indicates your chain. So this is the first chain. Once again, yarn over and pull through. So 2 and then yarn over and pull through. 3, yarn over and pull through. 4. So you are pulling through this loop right here and then yarn over and pull through the loop. So I have 5 chains with me. Now the last chain is going to be your turning chain, just so that it's easier for you to insert your hook into the second stitch. So we are going to ignore the first chain. So you have this a bunch of V's. So this is basically your chains. So we have the first V, the second V, third, fourth, and fifth. So from the top, this is going to be your second chain. So you are going to insert your hook into this second chain. So insert your hook like this. And then we are going to make an X stitch single crochet. So you're going to grab onto your yarn like this. So this is basically a yarn under because the yarn is going to be under your hook. So grab onto the yarn like this So you're going to go through the first loop right here. So yarn under and pull up a loop like this. So right now we have 1 and 2 loops. Now we're going to yarn over and pull through these 2 loops and pull through. So this is going to be your first single crochet. So go ahead and grab your stitch marker and mark the first stitch. So your first stitch is always going to be the V shape. So this is the first V. So go ahead and insert your stitch marker into the V shape like this and mark it with a stitch marker. So we're going to continue making 2 more single crochets so that we have a total of 3 single crochets. So to make the second single crochet, just insert your hook into the next stitch. So your next stitch is right here. As you can see, we have the V shape. This is going to be our next stitch. So insert your hook into the second V, yarn under and pull up a loop. Now we have 2 loops on our hook. Then yarn over and pull through 2 loops. So this is going to be our second single crochet. And then insert your hook into the third stitch. As you can see, we have this V shape. So just insert your hook into the third stitch, yarn under and pull up a loop, yarn over and pull through 2. So this is your last stitch right here. So in our last stitch, we are going to insert 3 single crochets. So basically 3 single crochets into the same stitch. So insert your hook into the last stitch, yarn under and pull up a loop, and then yarn over and pull through 2. And then insert your hook into the same stitch. As you can see, we have kind of like a space here. This is where you're going to insert your hook. So insert your hook, yarn under and pull up a loop, yarn over and pull through 2. Once again, insert 1 more single crochet into the same stitch. You can see where we last inserted our single crochet, so you're just going to use that as your guide as to where to insert your hook. So insert your hook into the same stitch, yarn under and pull up a loop, and then yarn over and pull through 2 loops. So we have done 1, 2, and 3. So this is the last stitch that we have worked on. So this is going to be our next stitch. You can see that we sort of have this kind of like a line. That is where your next stitches are. So this is the second stitch, third stitch, and then your last stitch. So I am going to carry this end as I walk over my single crochet just so that we don't have to weave it in. So I am going to show you how to carry the end. So first, insert your hook into the next stitch right here. So insert your hook, and then to carry the end, you're just going to put it on top of your crochet hook while you crochet. Then you're going to yarn under and pull up a loop, yarn over and pull through 2. Then in the next stitch, which is right here, you can see that we have sort of a line. So just insert your hook and make 1 more single crochet. So this is your last stitch right here, as you can see. So your last stitch is going to be in the same space as where we first inserted our first single crochet. So you're going to insert your hook into the last stitch right here, and then we're going to insert 2 single crochet into the same stitch. So yarn under and pull up a loop, yarn over and pull through 2. and insert your hook again into the same space, yarn under and pull up a loop, yarn over and pull through 2. So you should have a total of 10 stitches by the end of round 1. So to count your stitches, you're just going to see the V's. So this is the first V right here where we mark with a stitch marker. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Then moving on to round 2, so remove your stitch marker. And this is going to be your first stitch where I just remove my stitch marker. So insert your hook into the first stitch. And again, I am still going to carry the end since I have so much more left. Now we are going to insert an increase into the first stitch. So an increase basically means you are going to insert 2 single crochets into the same stitch. So in the first stitch, we are going to insert an increase. So yarn under and pull through, and then yarn over and pull through 2. So this is your first single crochet. So make sure to always mark the first single crochet. So go back into the first stitch and insert 1 more single crochet to complete the increase. So insert your hook into the same space where we just made a single crochet. So this is the stitch. So insert your hook and then make 1 single crochet. So now we have 2 single crochets into the same stitch. So this is our first increase. So now what you're going to do is just insert an increase in each stitch all the way around until your last stitch right here. So this is the closest V with our last single crochet. So basically this is going to be your second stitch. So insert your hook and make an increase. So make sure that your loop is always tight on your hook because you need the loop to be the size of your crochet hook. So make sure to always tighten it up with your index finger like this, sort of just pulling it to make sure that all of your single crochet are always the same size. Then I'm going to insert 1 more single crochet into the same stitch to complete my increase. Once again in the third stitch, an increase, and then the fourth stitch, an increase, and then the next stitch right here, and then your next stitch right here, and then insert an increase again into your next stitch, so just continue inserting your increase. So insert your hook into the last stitch and insert your last increase. So if you cannot carry the end, as you can see, it's too short for me to carry, you're just going to let it rest at the back and just don't do anything to it because we basically are going to hide it inside of the hat later on. I'm just going to make an increase in the last stitch. Now, moving on to round 3, you're going to remove your stitch marker. So in the first stitch, where we have our stitch marker, we're going to insert an increase. So go ahead and insert your hook into the first stitch and make an increase. Basically 2 single crochet into the same stitch. And make sure to always mark the first stitch. And go back into the first stitch and insert 1 more single crochet to complete the increase. Then we're going to make 3 single crochets. So 3 single crochets basically means you're going to insert 1 single crochet into the next 3 stitches. So this is your next stitch, which is the closest V to the last single crochet. So insert your hook into the next stitch and make 1 single crochet. And then the next stitch right here, and make 1 single crochet. And then once again, the next stitch, 1 single crochet. So basically we have done 3 single crochets. So an increase right here and 3 single crochets, 1, 2, and 3. So you're going to repeat this pattern for 4 more times. I'm going to show you one more time. So we're going to insert an increase into the next stitch. So this is your next stitch right here, which is the closest V to the last single crochet. So insert your hook, yarn under and pull up a loop, yarn over and pull through 2, and insert 1 more single crochet into the same stitch. So this is your increase. As you can see, we have 2 single crochets into the same stitch. Then the closest V is right here, so this is going to be your next stitch. So now we're going to make 3 single crochets. So insert your hook into the next stitch and then make 1 single crochet. And in the next stitch again, which is right here, 1 more single crochet. So 2, and then in the next stitch, 1 single crochet, and 3. So we have an increase, 1, 2 into the same stitch, and 3 single crochets. So repeat this for 3 more times until you reach the last stitch right here. Now moving on to round 4. So remove your stitch marker. And into the first stitch, we are going to insert an increase. So insert your hook into the first stitch and make an increase. And I'm just going to mark the first stitch first. And then insert 1 more single crochet into the same stitch. So this is going to be your first increase, and now this is going to be your next stitch. So we're going to make 4 single crochets. So 4 single crochets is basically 1 single crochet in the next 4 stitches. So insert your hook into the next stitch and make 1 single crochet. So 1, and then in the next stitch, 2, 3, and 4. So we have an increase here, which is the first 2 stitches, and then 4 single crochets. So you're going to repeat this pattern for 4 more times. So I'm going to show you once again. This is your next stitch, which is the closest V to your last single crochet. So insert your hook and make an increase. insert your hook into the same stitch and insert one more single crochet to complete the increase. And then we're going to make 4 single crochets. So insert your hook into the next stitch and make 1 single crochet. So 1, and then in the next stitch, 2, three, and 4. So go ahead and repeat this step until you reach your last stitch, which is right here. And by the end of this round, you should have a total of 30 stitches. So make sure to always count your stitches and make sure that your stitches are right. So now we are done with round 4. So now let's move on to round 5. So for round 5 until round 10, you're going to insert 1 single crochet in each stitch. So basically, you're going to make 30 single crochets. So remove your stitch marker and insert your hook into the first stitch. And then you're going to mark it with your stitch marker. So this is your first stitch. So insert your hook into the second stitch and make 1 single crochet. And then your third stitch. So 3, 4. So basically, you're just going to insert 1 single crochet in each of the V's. As you can see, we have a bunch of V's. So that is basically your stitches. So right now I have 4 single crochets. Five, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, and 30. So you are done with round 5. So I'm going to show you how to count your round. So to count your round, you can see that we have this little oval shape at the top, which is right here. This is going to be your first round. So we're just going to count it like this. So this is going to be your left side, and then this is going to be your right side. So basically, we're going to divide this in half like this. So you're going to start counting from here. So 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5 rows. So this side should have the same number of rows as your right side. So again, divide it into 2, and this is going to be your first row. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So now just continue this step, which is inserting 1 single crochet in each stitch until round 10. So I have done until round 10, and this is how it looks like. As you can see, the shape kind of like build up and it's expanding. So this is how the inside looks like and the outside. So now let's move on to round 11. So remove your stitch marker, and we are going to start making a decrease from this round onwards. So I am going to teach you how to make a decrease. So this decrease is what we call an invisible decrease. Just like its name, it's invisible. You won't be able to tell that we have made a decrease. So to do a decrease, you're going to grab onto the first 2 front loops. So as you can see, from the V shape, we have a back loop, which is right here, and then a front loop, which is here. So this is going to be your front loop and this is the back loop. So you are only going to be inserting your hook into the 2 of the front loops. So we're going to make our first decrease. So grab onto the 2 front loops. So to grab onto the front loop, I'm going to use this part of my hook. So you're going to grab onto the front loop like this, and then insert it onto your hook, and then grab the next stitch front loop, which is right here. So with your hook, just grab onto it like this, and then you have 3 loops on your hook. Then you're going to yarn under, and you're going to pull through the first 2 loops. Then you are left with 2 loops on your hook. So go ahead and yarn over and pull through 2 loops. Now take your stitch marker and mark the first stitch. So this is going to be your first stitch. So as you can see, this is the part where we made our decrease. So we're not going to insert any more stitches into this part. So this is going to be our next stitch, since as you can see, this stitch kind of like stretch out. So basically that means you have inserted a decrease into that stitch. Now we are going to continue making 4 single crochets. So insert your hook into the next stitch, which is here, and then make 1 single crochet, and then insert your hook into the next stitch and make 1 more single crochet. So 2, the next stitch, 3, and 4. So we have a decrease and then 4 single crochets. So this is the pattern that you're going to repeat for 4 more times. So I'm going to show you one more time. So we're going to make a decrease in the next 2 stitches. So grab onto the front loop with your hook, and then insert your hook again into the next stitch and grab onto the front loop. So we have 3 loops on your hook, and then yarn under and pull through the first 2 loops, 1 and 2. Then you are left with 2 loops. So yarn over and pull through all 2 loops. As you can see, this part is kind of like stretched out, which means you have done a decrease into this stitch. So this is going to be your next stitch. So insert your hook into the next stitch and continue making 4 single crochets. 1, 2, 3, and 4. So go ahead and repeat this step until the end of this round right here. So once you are done, it is going to look like this. There's not much difference as you can see, just that this part got smaller. Now just remove your stitch marker. And we're going to do a decrease into the first 2 stitches just like how we did it on round 11. So grab onto the 2 front loop. So the first front loop, which is your first stitch, and then the next stitch front loop, and yarn under and pull up a loop, yarn over and pull through 2. So this is going to be your first stitch. Now we are going to make 3 single crochets. So once again, this part is stretched out, which means we have made a decrease into this stitch. So we're going to ignore this stitch and insert our hook into the next stitch right here. So continue by making 3 single crochets. So insert your hook, yarn under and pull up a loop, yarn over and pull through 2. So 1, and then in the next stitch, 2, and 3. Once again, grab onto the 2 front loop, the first loop, and then the second loop, and then pull through the first 2 loops, yarn over and pull through 2. Then continue with 3 single crochets. One, 2, and 3. So repeat this step until the last stitch right here, or just continue for 3 more times. Now this is going to be your last round for the hat. So for the last round, we are going to make a decrease in each of these stitches. So remove your stitch marker and make a decrease in the first 2 stitches, which is these 2. So grab onto the first stitch front loop, and then the second stitch front loop, yarn under and pull through 2 loops, yarn over and pull through 2 loops. Then just mark the first stitch. So you're going to keep making the decrease until you are done with your last 2 stitches. So basically, we're going to do a decrease for 10 times. So grab onto the front loop like this, into the 2 stitches, yarn under and pull up a loop, yarn over and pull through 2. So grab onto the front loop, and then the next front loop, yarn under and pull up a loop, yarn over and pull through 2, and then a decrease again. So I'm just going to do this until the end of this round. So now just take your scissors and cut your yarn and leave a long tail, maybe about this much. Maybe about this much, as you can see. Then you're just going to pull through. Then remove your stitch marker. Then you're just going to take your stuffing and you're going to insert it into the hat. So you're going to stuff it little by little. You don't want to stuff it too much all at once, because this is going to help you make the shape a little nicer and you can control the shape like this. So go ahead and do this until it is all stuffed up. Now once you are done, this is how it looks like. Now go ahead and take your darning needle and thread in your yarn. Now we're going to sew this hole close. So to close this hole, you can see that each stitch has its own partner. So we're going to sew it up together with the partner. So you're going to insert your needle and yarn through the front loop only. So go ahead and insert your needle and yarn to the first stitch here, beside it right here, and then pull. And then you're going to insert your needle and yarn into the bottom stitch right here. which is aligned with this stitch, and pull through. Then you're just going to pull it like this. Then you're going to insert it into the second stitch right here, only through the front loop, and pull through, and then insert it into the stitch at the front of it and pull. So this is what you're going to do to sew it close. So you don't have to pull too tight, just pull it enough until you don't see the stuffing. And this is going to be my last stitch that I'm going to sew. And this is the bottom of the stitch. So just pull. So as you can see, we don't have any stuffing showing through, which means we have sewed it close. Now just insert your needle into this place right here. You can insert it anywhere just as long as it is close with the yarn right here. Then you're just going to go through anywhere you want and pull through. So what I am doing right now is I am weaving the ends, then insert your needle through the same place that you pull through, and then just pull through anywhere you want and pull. Now cut your yarn, and you can use anything you have and poke this yarn into the head to hide it. So now this is how the head is going to look like. Now we're going to make the blushers for the animal. As you can see, it got blushers on its cheeks. So first, we are going to do a magic ring. So a magic ring is a little hard for beginners, so I am going to do this slowly with you. So first, you're going to hold the end of your yarn with your thumb and middle finger. And then you're going to wrap the yarn around your index finger and middle finger. So just wrap the yarn around and then bring the yarn to your left side so that the middle right here will have an X shape. Then you're going to turn your finger around like this, and then with your ring finger you're going to hold the yarn. So this is the first loop, and then this is the second loop. So go under the first loop, and then with your hook, with this part of your hook, you're going to grab onto the second loop like this, and then you're going to twist your hook. So just twist your hook, and then it will automatically twist the yarn. As you can see, the yarn is twisted. Now you're going to remove this ring from your finger while still keeping the shape. So from this side, you're going to hold onto it like this and release it from your finger. Then go ahead and hold onto your yarn with a gun shaped hand, and then just hold the magic ring and make sure that your hook is still on your magic ring. Now just go ahead and yarn over and hold the magic ring as close as possible like this so that you have control over the ring, and then just pull through. So this is basically your chain 1. Make sure that you crochet over the end because this is what we're going to pull to close the magic ring later on. So we are going to insert 9 single crochets into our magic ring. So go ahead and insert your hook into the magic ring and yarn under and pull up a loop, yarn over and pull through 2. So the single crochet is basically the same step as how we did the head, so you're just going to repeat the same step. So now this is your first stitch. So I would recommend that you mark the first stitch so that you know where the first stitch is, because we are going to work in a continuous round. Now insert your hook into the magic ring again, yarn under and pull up a loop, yarn over and pull through 2. So this is your second single crochet, three, 4. So if the end is kind of short like this, you can always pull it a little bit, but not until the hole close. Just pull it until you can crochet over the end. So I'm just going to continue. 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. Now just pull the end of your magic ring to close it up. So just pull until there is no hole or gap in the middle. And as you can see, we don't have any hole or gap in the middle. So now let's move on to round 2. So just remove your stitch marker, then just insert your hook into the first stitch where you just remove your stitch marker. So for this part, you don't have to carry the end, you're just going to let it be at the back. Now we're going to insert an increase in each stitch. So basically we are going to make 9 increases. So in the first stitch, you're going to make an increase. Once again, an increase basically means you're going to make 2 single crochets into each stitch. So this is my first increase, and then in the next stitch, one and 2. So this is my second increase. In the next stitch, 1 and 2. And then in the next stitch again, an increase, 1 and 2. So just repeat this step until the end of this round right here. So now remove your stitch marker, and then in the first stitch we are going to make a slip stitch. So to do a slip stitch, you're just going to insert your hook into the first stitch and then yarn over and pull up a loop, and then just pull through your loop right here. So now just pull your loop, and you're going to pull your loop so that the slip stitch is not as obvious. So just pull and then just tighten up the loop so that it's the size of your hook, and then chain 1. So to chain 1, just yarn over and pull through. Now take your scissors and cut your yarn and then pull through. Now you're going to pull the end to tighten up the chain 1. So this is so that your work won't unravel. So just pull until the chain 1 is tight, and now you're just going to tie a few knots at the back using these 2 ends to secure it up. So for the first knot, you're just going to tie loosely like this because you don't want this part to curl, but just make sure that the end is not visible from the front. And then the second knot, you can tie it tight like this to secure it, and then I'm going to tie one more time to make sure it's really secure. And now just cut your yarn. Now go ahead and repeat the same step and make one more. I have my 2 blushers, and this is what it looks like. Later on, we're going to glue it onto the cheeks. Now we are going to make each parts for each animals. Basically, we're going to do the eyes for the frog, the ears for the bear, and bunny, and the beak. So go ahead and skip to the timeline for the animals that you're doing. So to make the ears for the bunny, we are going to start by making a magic ring. So it is going to be the same step as how we did the blushers. So first, go ahead and make your magic ring. So hold the end of your yarn and wrap the yarn around your 2 fingers and make an X shape. As you can see, we have an X shape in the middle right here, and then just turn your finger to the front and hold your yarn with your ring finger, and then go under the first loop and then grab onto the second loop and twist your hook, and then release the yarn from your finger while still keeping the shape and keep it from your hook. So just grab onto the yarn and release it from your finger and hold your yarn like this, and with your middle finger and thumb you're going to hold onto the magic ring. Now you're going to chain 1. So yarn over and pull through. Now we're going to insert 9 single crochets in our magic ring. It is the same step as how we did the pleasure. So just insert your hook into the magic ring, yarn under and pull up a loop, yarn over and pull through 2. So just continue until you have a total of 9 single crochets. So 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and if the end is too short, you're just going to pull it a bit because you have to make sure that you crochet over the end. 7, 8, and 9. So now just pull the end of your magic ring until there is no hole in the middle, like this. As you can see, there is no more hole in the middle. Now for round 2 until round 7, all you need to do is just insert 1 single crochet in each stitch. So go ahead and insert your hook into the first stitch, which is basically the closest V right here. And I am going to carry the end as I work over my single crochet so that I don't have to weave it in. So to carry the end, all you need to do is just put the end on top of your crochet hook and then crochet over the end. So just insert 1 single crochet into the first stitch and then take your stitch marker and mark the first stitch. So this part is really important because you are going to crochet in a continuous round, so you have to be able to tell where the first stitch is. Now insert your hook into the second stitch, which is right here, the closest V, and insert 1 single crochet. And then in the next stitch, 1 single crochet. So the total number of single crochet that you're going to make is 9 single crochet. So make sure that you don't make more single crochets or less single crochets, because we did 9 single crochet in our magic ring. So the total number of 1 single crochet that you should insert is still 9 single crochets. So 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. So we are done with round 2. So go ahead and repeat this step until round 7. So once the ears is kinda long, it is going to be hard for you to insert your hook into these stitches. So I'm going to give you some tips on how you can make it easier for you to insert your hook into these stitches. Let me just remove my stitch marker. So instead of just crocheting it like this, which basically the front stitch and back stitch is kind of like close together like this, because you can accidentally get into the back stitch like this. What you're going to do is you're just going to pinch the back stitch like this. So when you pinch the back stitch, you have some space at the back right here, so you won't accidentally insert your hook into the back stitch. As you can see, I am pinching the back stitch, and then I'm just going to insert 1 single crochet into the first stitch like this and mark the first stitch. And again, you're just going to pinch the back stitch. So you're just going to pinch the back stitch and make some space for you to insert your hook. And as you can see, it's much faster and easier for you to insert your hook. So go ahead and do this until round 7. So once you are done until round 7, go ahead and remove your stitch marker. And in the first stitch, you're going to insert a slip stitch. So insert your hook, yarn over and pull up a loop, and then just pull through. Now pull your loop and pull it until the slip stitch is not as obvious, and then just chain 1. Now you're going to cut a long tail so that you can use this to sew it onto the head later on. I'm going to cut about this long and make sure not to cut too short. And now just go ahead and pull through, and then just pull the end to tighten up the chain one. So now this is how the first ear is going to look like. So go ahead and repeat this step and make one more. So now we're going to sew on the ears for the bunny. So go ahead and take your darning needle and thread in your yarn. So you are going to insert your needle and yarn through the 2 stitches at the corner right here. So go ahead and insert your needle and yarn and pull through. Now for the bunny, it is going to be the same step on how you sew on the ears. So I am just going to show you how to sew it for the right side. So you can see that on top of here, we have a small oval going on. That is basically the round one, which is right here. I really hope you can see it. So this is where you're going to start sewing from the center and then end here, which is on round 2. So you're just going to place the ears like this so it's easier for you to sew. So you can just follow the line which is in between of the oval or round one. That is basically the line that is dividing the front and back part. So this is basically the center of the hat. By following the line, I'm just going to insert my needle right here and then just pull through. Then you're going to insert your needle through the same stitch at the corner right here. And then just pull through. Then you're going to insert your needle into the same stitch. And just pull through. And then from the back, you're just going to insert it into the next stitch of the ear. And make sure that you insert it through both front and back stitches like this and pull. Then you're going to insert it right here and pull, and then from the back you're just going to insert it again into the next stitch through front and back stitches and pull, and then insert it into the next stitch like this and pull, and then from the back just insert it through both stitches at the corner right here like this and pull, and then just insert it into the next stitch like this and pull, and insert it again into the same stitch where you have the corner. And now you can see that we have a gap right here. So we're going to fix it by inserting your needle through the same stitch like this to the same stitch that you just pull through, and then just go through anywhere you want and pull through. Now we're going to weave in the excess yarn by inserting it into the same place that you just pulled through and go through anywhere you want and pull, and then just do the same thing for one more time and pull. Then go ahead and cut your yarn and use anything you have and poke in this excess yarn inside of the hat to hide it. Now you're going to repeat the same thing and sew on the other ear. Now once you are done, this is how the ears look like. So I'm going to show you the placement for the blusher. So from the second round, basically where we sew the blusher is on round 1 and this side is round 2. So basically this part right here is round 2. So from round 2 right here, we're going to count 5 rows. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So basically that is where you're going to start placing the blusher. So basically just start placing it on round 6. So this part doesn't matter as long as the first round that touched the blusher is round 6. So now this is going to be the first round that touch the blushers, and then this is going to be the second round. So the second round is where the eyes is going to be. So make sure that when you place the blushers, the second round that touches the blushers have 8 stitches in between of them. So basically 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. So I am going to use 5mm eyes, and I'm just going to take my glue and just place it at the back of the eyes. Just place it a little bit and not too much because you don't want the glue to show. And I'm just going to remove my pins. So the eyes is going to be on the second round that touches the blushers. So you're going to skip this first stitch right here. So the eyes is going to be on the second stitch. So just place the eye on the second stitch and do the same thing for this side. So I'm gonna place a little bit of glue, and then just skip the first stitch beside the blusher and put the eye on the second stitch like this. So now this is how the eyes looks like. So now go ahead and glue on the blusher. Now this is how the bunny looks like, and all you need to do is just put a keyring on the bunny, or if you don't have a keyring, you can go to the timeline that I show on here and make the keyring using yarn. So for the duck, it is honestly the easiest animals that you can do because you don't have to sew any pieces. So I am going to show you the placement for the blushers and the eyes. So from the top, you can see that we have kind of like a oval shape right here. So this is basically our round one. So you can see that there is a line, kind of like a line here, which is dividing the front part and back part. So from this part, which is the front part, this is going to be your round one, and then this is going to be the round one for the back part. So we're going to count for the front part only. So we are going to count 6 rows or 6 rounds. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So the blushers is going to be placed on round 6. Now on round 7, which is basically the second round that touches the blushers. So for the second round, you will have to make sure that you have 8 stitches in between of the 2 blushers. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. So I'm going to use the size of 5mm eyes. So this type of eyes, you will have to use a glue and stick it onto the head. So for the placement for the eyes, you will have to skip 1 stitch beside of the blusher, and then on the second stitch, that is where the eyes is going to be. And it is going to be the same for this side. So skip 1 stitch, and then on the second stitch, that is where the eyes is going to be. So I'm going to use this glue, which I got for free. So I don't know what brand is this. And then I'm just going to use a toothpick to pick up the glue. So if you're a beginner, I would recommend that you use a glue that is not too thick and not too thin. So this type of glue doesn't take too long to dry, and it also doesn't dry too quickly, because for beginners, when placing the eye, sometimes you will need to take off the eye and just fix the position a little bit. So I will recommend that you use this kind of glue. Now I'm just going to use my toothpick and just apply the glue at the back of the eyes. Just put a little bit because you don't want the glue to show. And I'm just going to remove my pins. And I'm going to place it on the second stitch like this. So this is where the first eye is going to be. And I'm just going to remove my pins again and apply some glue at the back of the eyes. So I'm just gonna place it on the second stitch right here. Now we are going to sew the beak for the duck. So go ahead and take your orange yarn and thread it into your darning needle. Now you're just going to insert your needle and yarn anywhere you want. I'm just going to insert it right here, and then you're going to go through this part of this stitch. So basically this is the eyes, and then just go down, and then you're just going to go to the left, and this is the stitch that you're going to insert your needle and yarn into. Go through with your needle and yarn. and then just pull through, and then just leave a little end right here so that you can hide inside of the body to secure the yarn. So then from this stitch, you're going to count 3 stitches. So 1, 2, and 3. So insert your needle right here and then go through the same place right here. And then pull through. So you're going to do this 3 times. So this is going to be the first one. And then just do this again. Insert it right here and then go through the same place. And pull through. And then do it again one more time. And then for the last one, you're just going to pull out anywhere you want. I'm just going to pull it right here. So the tip for this is you don't have to pull too tight because you want the beak kind of like popping out like this. Now what you're going to do is you're just going to weave in this excess yarn by inserting it into the same place that you pull through and pull anywhere you want. So this is so that the yarn is secure and this part doesn't move around. So just do this one more time. And then once again, I'm just going to do this and pull out. And then just pull out at where the first end is. And then you're just going to tie a few knots with these 2 ends. I'm just going to tie about 2 knots. Then take your scissors and cut your yarn. And you can use anything you have and just poke in this excess yarn inside of the hat to hide it. Now this is how the duck looks like, and go ahead and skip to the part where I show you how to make the key ring. So to make the ears for the bear, it is the same step as the eyes for the frog. It's just that instead of doing it until round 4, you're going to do it until round 3. So go ahead and skip to the timeline where I show you how to make the eyes for the frog, but just do it until round 3 instead of round 4. So basically, once you are done until round 3, you are going to go ahead and fasten off. I also showed how to fasten off, which is basically just inserting a slip stitch into the first stitch and then just chain 1. So you're going to follow all of these steps, but just do it until round 3. Now we're going to sew the ears for the bear. So I have sewed the right ears like this. So basically, to sew the ears, it is basically going to be the same step for both ears. So go ahead and take your darning needle and thread in your yarn. Also, don't worry, I am going to show you the placement for the blusher later on. So you're going to insert your needle and yarn through the side right here where we have the 2 stitches at the corner. So insert your needle and yarn through both stitches like this and pull through. So this is going to help you sew much easier. Now from the top right here, you can see that we have the round 1. So this is round 1, and then there is a spiral going on, which is basically your round 2. So this is the round 2 right here, and then 3 and 4. So you're going to sew the ear on round 2, 3, and 4. So if you have a pin like this, you can use it and mark where the ear placement is going to be, which is going to help making the sewing process much easier. So you're just going to follow the line, which is dividing the back and front part, and then insert it on round 2 right here. So the ears is basically going to be at the center of the hat. And then round 2, 3, and 4. So this is where you're going to stop or start sewing. So I'm going to start sewing right here. So you're going to insert your needle only through this line, following this center part. So I'm just going to insert it like this and pull. And then you're going to insert your needle and yarn through this stitch like this and pull through, and then insert your needle and yarn through the next row like this. I'm just going to remove this pin and then just pull and insert your needle and yarn through the next stitch like this from the front and pull. Then you're going to insert your needle and yarn through the last row where our last pin is. I really hope you can see it like this, and then just pull, and I'm just going to remove my pin, and you're going to insert your needle and yarn to the last stitch at the corner like this and pull. So you can see that we kind of have a gap right here. To fix that, you're just going to insert your needle through the stitch right here where we last sewed, and then pull anywhere you want, and then you're going to weave in this excess yarn a couple of times. So basically, to weave it in, you're just going to insert your needle and yarn to the place where you just pull through, and then go anywhere you want, and then just pull, and you're going to do this a couple of times. I'm just going to do this 2 times, and then just cut your yarn, and then use anything you have and poke in this excess yarn inside of the hat to hide it. And now this is how the ears looks like. So now I'm going to show you the placement for the blusher. So from the top, which is round 1, you're going to count 6 rows. So this is the first row, 1, and then 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So we're going to place the blusher on round 6 and then downwards. So this part doesn't matter because as long as the first round that the blusher touch is round 6, it's going to be okay. On round 6, this is basically the first round that the blusher is going to touch, and then this is going to be the second round. So on the second round, you will have to make sure that you have a total of 7 stitches in between of the blushers. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. So the second round is going to be where we're going to glue on the eyes. Now I am going to show you where to place the eyes. So I am using 5mm eyes. So this type of eyes is the type where you have to glue it onto your crochet projects. So we're going to place the eyes on the second row just as I said. So basically you're going to skip 1 stitch beside the blusher, and then the second stitch is where the eyes is going to be. So the second stitch, this is where the first eye is going to be, and then it's going to be the same for this side. Skip 1 stitch, and then the second stitch is where the eye is going to be. So I'm just going to place it. So this is how the eyes is going to look like. So I am going to use this type of glue where it's not too thick and not too thin. This is the glue that I'm using. I don't know what brand is this because I got it for free when I buy yarn. So for beginners, I would recommend that you use this type of glue because if you use a hot glue, it's going to be really hard for you to control it. So now go ahead and apply the glue slowly at the back of the eyes, and then just place it at where the eyes is going to be, and then just let it dry. I'm going to do the same thing for this side, and make sure not to apply too much because you don't want the glue to show. And then the eye right here, and now this is how the eyes looks like. So now I'm going to glue on the blushers off camera. Now this is how the bear looks like. So all you need to do is just put a keyring or charms on the bear like this, or if you don't have a keyring like this, you can go to the timeline here and make the keyring using yarn. So we're going to make the eyes for the frog. So you're going to start with a magic ring. So this is going to be the same step as how we did the blusher. So go ahead and hold the end of your yarn and then wrap the yarn around your 2 fingers and make an X shape, and then turn your finger around and hold your yarn with your ring finger, and then go under the first loop and then grab onto the second loop and twist your hook, and release the magic ring from your finger while still keeping the shape. And hold your yarn. And then go ahead and yarn over and pull through to make a chain 1. So we are going to insert 8 single crochets into our magic ring. So go ahead and insert your hook, yarn under and pull up a loop, yarn over and pull through 2. So go ahead and mark it with a stitch marker. So just continue inserting 1 single crochet until you have a total of 8 single crochets. So 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Then pull the end of the magic ring to close it up. Now remove your stitch marker. For round 2 until round 4, all you need to do is just insert 1 single crochet in each stitch. So go ahead and insert your hook into the first stitch. And make sure to carry the end as you work over the single crochet. So to carry the end, all you need to do is just put the end on top of your crochet hook and crochet over it. So just insert 1 single crochet into the first stitch. So yarn under and pull up a loop, yarn over and pull through 2. Now mark the first stitch with your stitch marker. Now in the second stitch, which is right here, insert 1 single crochet. So make sure that you only insert 8 single crochets, not less or not more, because we made 8 single crochets in our magic ring, so the total number of 1 single crochet that you have to make is 8 single crochets. So 2 in the third stitch, 3, 4. So just insert your hook into the V's. 5, 6, 7, and 8. So go ahead and repeat this step for 2 more rounds, which is until round 4. Now once you are done with round 4, this is what it's going to look like. So just remove your stitch marker and we are going to fasten off. So to fasten off, you're just going to make a slip stitch into the first stitch. So insert your hook into the first stitch, yarn over and pull up a loop, and then just pull through. And you're going to pull up your loop and pull your loop to tighten up this slip stitch so that it's not as obvious. And then just yarn over and pull through to chain 1. Now you're going to cut a long tail because you're going to use this to sew on the eyes later on. So just cut your yarn and pull through. And then pull the end to tighten up the chain 1. So now go ahead and repeat this step and make the other eyes. So now I have the 2 eyes. Now I am going to show you how to sew it on. Now we're going to sew on the eyes for the frog. So I have sewed the right eyes and it's going to be the same step for the left eye. So I'm going to show you how to sew the left eye and then you're going to do the right eye alone. And also don't mind the blushers, I'm going to tell you the placement later on. So now go ahead and take your darning needle and thread in your yarn. From the top right here, which is our round 1, you can see we have this little oval shape right here. So this is the first round and you can see right here we have like a spiral going on, which is basically our second round. So you're going to count from the second round right here, 1, 2, and 3. So you're going to start sewing from round 2 until round 4. Now before you start sewing, go ahead and insert your yarn into this 2 space right here, which is basically at the end of the eyes. like this. So this is going to help make the sewing process much easier. So I usually will mark the places where I'm going to sew with pins. So if you have pins, go ahead and mark it before you start sewing. So from the top, you can see that on round 1, we kind of have like a line dividing the front and back. So that is where the eyes are going to be. So you just have to follow the line that is dividing the two sections. So just insert your needle through one stitch like this and pull through. And then insert your needle and yarn through both stitches like this. And then pull. And once again into the next row like this. And pull. I'm just going to remove this pin because we have started sewing there. And then just insert your needle and yarn through both stitches again and pull. So this is going to be our last space where you're going to sew, and just pull my yarn like this, and then just insert your needle and yarn to the last stitch like this and pull. You can see that this part is lifted right here. So what you're going to do is you're going to insert your needle and yarn to the same place here where you just pull through. Where you just sew. So just insert right there and go through anywhere you want and pull through like this. Now as you can see, it's really secure. So now you're going to weave in this excess yarn by going through the hat a couple of times. So just insert your needle and yarn into the same place where you pull through and go anywhere you want and pull through again, and then do the same step and just do this a couple of times. So I'm just going to do this 2 times, and then go ahead and take your scissors and cut your yarn. Then use anything you have and just hide the yarn inside of the hat like this. Now this is how the eyes look like. So now I'm going to show you the placement for the blushers. So from the top, you're going to count 6 rows. So this is the top right here, as you can see. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So basically on round 6 is where the placement for the blusher starts, as you can see. Like right here, the blusher is kind of like this. So basically the round 6 is going to be the first round that's going to touch the blusher. So on round 7, that is going to be the second row that is going to touch the blusher. So make sure that you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 spaces in between of the blusher. So that is going to be the placement. So go ahead and glue the blushers on the cheeks like this. Now I'm going to use 0.5 mm eyes. This is the eyes that I'm going to use. So basically for this type of eyes, you will need to glue it on to the crochet projects like this. So I'm going to take some glue. You can use any glue that you have. Going to use a glue that I get for free when I buy yarns. So just put it a little bit on the eyes like this. And I usually just use a toothpick and put it on the back of the eyes like this because it's much easier for me to control the amount that I put on the eyes. Then you're just going to put it on between of round 2 and 3. Like this, and then just press it and then just let it dry. So if you're a beginner, I recommend that you use this type of glue. Like it's not too thick but not too thin because it's easier for you to control. And then if you place it on the wrong spot, you can totally just remove the eyes and put it again at the right place. Whereas if you use a hot glue, it's really hard to control, and once you place the eyes on your crochet projects, it's totally hard for you to undo it, especially since there's so much glue residue on the crochet projects. So now this is how the eyes looks like. So I'm going to glue the blushers off camera. Now once you are done, this is how the frock looks like. So now we're going to make a chain so that the chains can act as a keyring to put on your bag. So first you're going to take your yarn. So go ahead and make a slip knot. So make a loop like this and then twist your yarn and then put your yarn on top of your loop, and then from the back just pull it. Now insert your crochet hook and make sure that the end is at the back and your working yarn is at the front, and tighten it up. Now we're just going to chain. So basically you're going to chain how long you want the key ring to be. So go ahead and yarn over and pull through. So go ahead and do this until you like the length. So I recommend that you chain about 35 plus. So basically this is just 24 chains because I don't have enough yarn. So this will have to do. So after you have done chaining, go ahead and pull your yarn. So pull the end to tighten up the chain. Now take your darning needle and thread in your yarn. You're going to go through the center part where we have the line that is dividing the front and back. So just insert your needle right here and then go through right here, right like this. And then just pull through and then remove your needle. And then you're going to tie a few knots at the end, like this. Just tie about 3 knots. Then you're going to cut your yarn and then go ahead and pull the chain until this knot right here is completely hidden inside of the head. So just pull like this, as you can see. So the knot is totally hidden inside of the head. So this is the end result for the frock. So that's it for the tutorial. Thank you for watching and I'll see you again. Bye!